Two Billboard-topping Atlanta-based rappers Young Thug and Gunna have been indicted in Georgia in a wide-ranging criminal investigation.
Orange County deputies believe a feud between these two local rappers and their alleged ties to the 438 and AFNF is behind that shooting and other violence spanning between Orange and Osceola counties.
Brooklyn-born rapper Cassanova pleads guilty to federal racketeering and drug charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office claims Cassanova led the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation Bloods gang and directed a multi-state conspiracy in that role.
This gangsta era of hip-hop gonna last for 3 more years. Every getting locked up. That's how every gangsta era have always ended in hip-hop. Remember, I told you that.
Since the beginning of gangsta rap, artists have found themselves in and out of jail. Some have even ended up catching major prison sentences. But these days, it seems like more and more rappers are finding themselves behind bars. Hip-hop fans are hearing the word RICO more than ever before in the history of rap. And some of the biggest names in rap are facing the possibility of spending decades behind bars. But how did we get here? What exactly led up to this outbreak of cases that rap is currently facing?
Before we get into the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
Unfortunately, hip-hop and the judicial system have been intertwined for a while now. Rappers have been catching big cases since the 90s. One of the first high-profile trials of a rapper being Snoop's murder case in 1993. Throughout the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, this trend of rappers fighting big cases continued. In 1999, Jay-Z caught an aggravated assault case for a stabbing which he ended up pleading guilty to. That same year, Diddy and his artist Shine also found themselves facing 15 years for a shooting at a party, a situation that resulted in Diddy walking away scot-free, while Shine ended up getting sentenced to 10 years. In 2004, Beanie Siegel fought and beat an attempted murder charge for a shooting outside a bar in Philly. In 2005, Gucci caught his infamous murder case after being forced to defend himself when he was set up. In 2006, Cassidy fought a murder and attempted murders and only ended up being charged with involuntary manslaughter. In 2009, C-Murder caught a life sentence for a murder that happened back in 2002. In that same year, Boosie was charged for a murder from the previous year, in a case he would eventually end up beating. The trend of rappers catching serious cases continued throughout the 10s, with the most notable cases being Bobby Shmurda and Tay-K. However, in 2018, the indictment of 6ix9ine and the 9 Trey Blood started a new trend in hip-hop, the RICO wave. Now, RICO laws are not a new thing. They were created back in 1970 to take down powerful mafia gangs. RICO stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, and it basically allows prosecutors to charge everyone in the group for the actions that any member of the group carried out to further the interests of the group as a whole. Due to the nature of this law, it is easy to see why the feds like using it against rappers so much. Even if they're not doing the crimes themselves, if you can tie them to a gang or label their clique or entourage as a gang, you can easily take them down with racketeering charges. And this is exactly what the feds have done time and time again. Since 2018, they built cases on countless crews across hip-hop, such as Cassanova and his gang, the untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation, Glokknine and AFNF, Hotboii and 438, as well as OTF member Muwop and some of the BDs from O-Block. With all these RICOs being passed out, one city in particular has lost more stars to RICO than most others. It accounts for 3 major RICO cases, one of them being by far the most heavily covered RICO case yet. I'm talking about Atlanta. It started back in October of 2020 with Hoodbridge Pablo Juan and 24 members of his local blood set being arrested on RICO charges. Next, in May of 2021, Lucci and 11 other YFN members were arrested on various RICO charges, and a year later, in May 2022, their rivals, Young Thug, Gunna, and YSL, were the subject of a 105-count RICO indictment. Most recently, up in New York, D-Thang, one of the biggest rappers in the Bronx drill movement, and 30 other members of his gang were charged with conspiracy, which is a weaker relative of the RICO law. Out of all these rappers from the various crews hit with RICO and conspiracy charges, Hotboii is the only one even allowed to be out on bail, and the odds don't look good for anybody. Federal cases have a 95% conviction rate, and all of these rappers and their crews are facing long sentences. So unless they take the extension route, the majority of these artists will have to sit in prison for a very long time. So the real question is, why are all these cases happening now? There are several theories about why so many rappers are finding themselves facing large indictments. So let's explore a couple. The first theory is the systematic targeting of rappers by authorities. Most rappers are young black males who come from environments of crime and poverty. And it's no secret how the justice system views individuals like these. They expect the worst out of them. It's common knowledge that many departments have units solely dedicated to watching rappers. Various people have spoken about the existence of the hip-hop police since the early 2000s. The police surveillance would almost guarantee that any rapper attempting to participate in illegal operations would be caught. It is also entirely possible that police are using the mere fact that rappers are even associated with people from back home engaging in criminal activities to paint entirely false narratives claiming that somehow these rappers are leading criminal operations from behind the scenes.
I can look out for my hood and now I can catch a RICO.
While it's definitely true that rappers are under surveillance and could quite possibly be unfairly targeted by authorities, this still doesn't explain why everything is happening now. If the hip-hop police have been around for 2 decades, why did the RICO wave only start in 2018? This is where the second theory comes in. The second theory is that there are more large indictments now than ever, because there are more real gangsters in hip-hop now than ever. The internet age and accessibility of a rap career is often blamed for watering down the skill and talent of the current crop of rappers, but we rarely look at other products that resulted from rap careers being easier to start than ever. Back in the 80s and early 90s, rap wasn't as big, didn't generate nearly as much money, and it was harder to get a foot in the door. In order to blow up, you had to rap for years, make a demo tape, and hope you could convince a label to give you a deal. And more than likely, even if you somehow managed to get a deal, it would most likely be a terrible deal for you. They ended up with your label owning all the masters and giving you a small percentage of the splits. Given this situation, the streets were more lucrative, and most real gangsters in this time period didn't even consider rap careers. In the late 90s and early 2000s, rap became more lucrative, and more real gangsters began to leave the streets and pursue rap careers. Now fast forward to the present day, and rappers make more money than they ever have, and it's easier to start a rap career than it's ever been. This means that straight dudes who 30 years ago wouldn't have even considered paying for studio time and chasing a record deal can record songs in a closet, shoot a video with 100 guns in it, upload it to YouTube, and blow up. In addition to the rap game being easier than ever for gangsters to enter, it is also believed that the demand for gangster rap is higher than ever. People have theorized that around 2019, when the SoundCloud era started dying down, that rap entered a new gangster era led by people who were almost unanimously viewed as really like that. People like Lil Durk, NBA Youngboy, and Lil Baby. And this wave continued as rappers like Pooh Shiesty emerged. In 2021, Who I Smoke was one of the biggest songs of the year because fans knew it was tied to a real story and they were fascinated with this beef. Now the true reason for this wave of RICO cases most likely involves both theories. Rappers have been under close watch by authorities for decades, but the game started to change when the internet era started in the late 2000s. In 2012, Chief Keef blew and proved that if you made good music and really lived the life you portrayed, you could blow up from a low-quality video in your living room. During the same time period, drill music set the trend of putting very real, very deadly beefs on records as well as social media. Bobby Shmurda and GS9 proved that these types of activities could result in your whole crew being put away. The feds began using all this new information and building cases, and they finished the first big RICO case in 2018, taking down 6ix9ine and the 9 Trey Bloods. In 2019, the gangsta era started, and real street rap had a bigger spotlight on it than ever before, with more and more gangsters entering the industry and discussing real beefs on social media and in raps, not even realizing that the whole time they were being closely watched by the police. And all of this leads us to the situation we're in today, where law enforcement is able to gather all the information they need and put together RICO case after RICO case and take these rappers down one by one. So how will this play out in the future? could mean one of two things. Either things will go how they've been going, and we'll stay in a cycle where rappers drop big songs, blow up fast, catch cases, and get replaced by the next new rapper over and over again. Or things will shift and the gangsta era will be replaced by something more sustainable. Regardless of what happens, it's almost certain that many more artists will catch cases in the coming years. The best advice for any up-and-coming rappers is to remember that being a rapper and a gangster simply don't mix.
But when you a real gangster and a rapper, you can't do both. You going down, man.